Hey everybody, it's Holly here today for your next stamp, and we are going to be using the cute, adorable Throwback Space Boy stamp set today. This has been re-released in the clear form, so if you want to get this set, it's now available in the store. So I'm going to be doing a watercolor galaxy background, so this video is sped up quite a bit because this took a very long time. So I have a piece of watercolor paper that's taped to a board, and I'm going to be using the Mission watercolor set here. And I'm just starting out with a wet paintbrush, and I'm putting it into the paint and then dabbing it onto the cardstock or the paper. I'm not pre-wetting the paper or anything like that. I'm just using the wet paintbrush into the paint and then directly onto the paper. So this is a layer building design. So you're going to put down your first layer of colors, and then you're going to let it dry, and then you're going to add a second layer, and so on, building up the depth of your colors to kind of create that galaxy look. I use my heat tool in between my layers, but you can probably just let it sit if you wanted to walk away or take longer, but the heat tool kind of sped up the process here. So after each layer, you can see that the colors get darker and darker, and you kind of want to let the watercolors blend into each other. So if you put two colors down wet next to each other, it's okay for them to blend to each other. And I'm just using several different shades of blue, a little bit of a turquoise, a hot pink, a purple, and a little bit of a red, more of a pinkish red color. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of a grayish black color towards the end here to just kind of deepen everything a little bit. And when you do dry in between the layers, you do want to make sure you go back in and add more wet. And when you add the wet, you want to make sure you cover the entire project, or you will have more defined lines of where you added the wet paint to it. So you can see as I go in again with my second coat, I'm making sure to go over everything. And then I'm just bringing that gray blackish color in more, covering up some more of that pink so it's not so bright. And then this is my final layer, and then I'm just going to let it sit for a few minutes and kind of air dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back to it. Now that my panel is completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and take my mister bottle and unscrew the lid and splatter a little bit of water on there. And this is going to help lift some of that color off, kind of the same thing you would do with distress inks. And I'm going to dab that up with a paper towel. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat that again with my heat tool to make sure everything's nice and dry. I've added some white cardstock around my area here to kind of make a splatter effect, and I'm using some white gesso paint. And I just squirted a little bit of it there, and I'm using a paintbrush. Now I'm not diluting the paint at first, I'm just using the paintbrush to kind of splatter it down to get some real fine little spatters to create stars. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more paint and add a little bit of water to it to kind of loosen it up some. And that will give you a little bit larger splatters. And then you want to kind of concentrate in certain areas to make that galaxy look where your stars are all together. And then I've got some white picket fence distress stain. I'm going to go ahead and splatter some of that on here. Now you can see I've got a few blobs. The good thing about a galaxy background is you can fix those blobs by just dabbing it up with your paper towel. And if you have too many blobs, you can cover it up with your image, as you'll see we'll do here towards the end. So I set that panel aside to dry, and now I'm going to work on a little moon I'm going to create. So I'm using these circle dies, and I die cut a piece from a piece of light gray and a piece of dark gray. And then I die cut the light gray piece with the snowfall panel die from Your Next Stamp. And this kind of gave me that Swiss cheese looking effect, or what we want to be the craters of the moon. So I'm going to go ahead and use Your Next Stamp Stone Gray ink and a mini ink blender tool, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that around the edges. And then I'm going to concentrate some of that along the little holes in the moon. to give it some more definition. And then once I have that all done, I'm going to go ahead and add some water splatters. Now this is not watercolor paper, so this is going to pull up the color a little bit, but it helps give the character of what you want the moon to look like. So I'm going to add the splatters, and then I'm going to pick it up with a paper towel. And then I'm going to make sure I heat set that with my heat tool really good. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a few splatters of that white picket fence distress stain. So it kind of blends in a little bit with the background. And you can see there on the moon there's some like peachy, pinkish color ones. That's where the color lifted up off the cardstock from the water. And it kind of just gives a little bit more effect to the moon look. So once that's all dry, I'm going to go ahead and add some Tombow Mono liquid glue to the back of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere the moon, the light colored piece, over the dark colored piece so the dark colored shows through the little dots there. Then I'm going to use the large stitch rectangle die on my Galaxy background panel there now that it's all dry. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and then I'm going to go ahead and figure out where I'm going to want my moon to be. I'm going to lay down my images so I can get an idea of where they're going to fit at. And I'm using the Space Boy set from YNS stamp. So once I know where my moon's going to go, I'm going to go ahead and cut the moon with the same stitch rectangle die so that the edge of it has the same stitch line around the edge. I'm going to go ahead and add my moon into the corner with some adhesive, just using my ATG gun. Then I'm going to go ahead and create a top folding A2 size card base out of some Nina Solar White 110 pound cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the card, or the watercolor panel to the front of the card. Now I'm just using the same adhesive, my ATG gun. And then once I have that all down, I'm going to go ahead and start stamping the images. Images are all stamped and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and start coloring them, and I did stamp these with the YNS stamp black olive ink. This is Copic friendly ink, and I'm using Expressive blending cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and just color in my images. I'm not doing anything special. I'm using 2 colors for each image, except for Little Space Boy, but I only use 2 markers of each color on the images. So I'm going to go ahead and color them in, and then I'll be back and we'll die cut them and we'll finish assembling the card. my images are all colored and I used the coordinating die cuts to cut them out. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble to the front of the card. I did stamp out the sentiment using the fishtail banner die set. I just used the small one there in the center to die cut the sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that across the front of the moon with some foam tape. And I did color and die cut a little planet, but I decided not to use it at the end, so you won't see that. So I'm going to go ahead and add the sentiment, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue adding the rest of the images with the foam tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some Spectrum Noir sparkle pen over parts of the images. And that pretty much finishes up my cards today, so I hope you enjoyed this edition of Throwback Thursday for your next stamp. I'll be back next month with another throwback, so I hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.